Tonight's look at Arizona technology and innovation focuses on data breaches. For most companies, data breaches are not a matter of if, but when. So what can companies do and what mistakes can be avoided when it comes to securing data? For the answers, we welcome Michael Kelly of Jennings Strauss Salmon Law. Good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I got a bunch of just probably some pretty basic questions for you, but we'll just see how we go here. Data breach, how big is that problem?
It's huge, and it's getting worse. Current estimates suggest that data breaches are costing companies approximately $400 to $500 billion a year in damages, and the U.S. Takes the brunt of that at in excess of $100 billion a year worth of damage due to data breaches.
And we hear a lot about retail, the major big box stores getting hit. But from what my reading in this, most breaches are in the healthcare sector. Is that correct?
The healthcare sector is particularly vulnerable because of the nature of the information. When you have health information for individuals, you not only have information that can be held hostage or ransomed, but you also typically have their credit card and payment information, which can be sold on the black market.
So who are we talking? Are we talking hackers? Are we talking third parties? Who's doing all this?
Well, you have hackers, certainly. A lot of them are doing it for fun and to prove themselves, to prove that they've got street cred among hackers. But increasingly we have state-sponsored terrorism, cyber terrorism. And we think longer term that's the growing threat. Not just longer term. It also poses an immediate threat. It's been said that World War III is not going to be fought with guns, but with computers, and we're seeing that.
Are they getting smarter? Are we getting more lackadaisical? Combination of both? What's going on out there?
They are getting smarter. There are a number of companies that are, and their boards, their leadership, is getting with the program, but there's still a bit of a cultural malaise. There's still, among some companies, there's a bit of, let's not let it out that we're as vulnerable as we are, or people won't want to do business with us. And we really need to overcome that. We need to get companies vested in the cybersecurity threat so that at the board level, companies take this threat as seriously as they take quarterly sales data.
Yeah. Okay, so what must businesses do to secure data?
Well, there's a number of things that businesses can and in our view, must do. I'd like to challenge the premise that you mentioned earlier, that it's not a question of if but when. Certainly for many companies, it is a question of not if but when. But we'd like to try and help companies increase their awareness that it doesn't have to be them. While it can be stated as a question of when, it's also been said that 80% of security breaches are avoidable. So there's some things that companies can do a lot better. Now one of the chief ones is it's a cultural shift, which is the days when companies, particularly public companies or companies that are in possession of confidential customer data, credit cards, health information, the days when boards can relegate that to IT are gone. Someone at the board level needs to be vested with the responsibility for immunizing the company against a serious cyber breach or data breach.
That's part of that malaise you were talking about, isn't it?
It's the malaise that we need to overcome. Technologically, one of the biggest things that will come with that shift is the notion that companies, they think that if they've got firewalls in place, then they're okay. Firewalls are good as far as they go, but no technology is fail-safe. Even the firewalls are themselves vulnerable. And one example that we like to use to make that point is that when you configure firewalls, you'll configure it with a set of rules. If those rules are inconsistent, let's say, for example, there's one rule that says we won't accept any traffic from China, just to take an example, and they code that rule in there. But then later they have a rule that says we're in the Defense Department supply chain, so we must accept traffic from any .gov top-level domain. Well, there are government, U.S. government installations in China, or that will use a top-level domain from China. So even though one level of rule may prevent that traffic, a subsequent rule may allow it in.
So these are great ideas. How do you get companies to do these? And do you use the carrot? Do you use the stick? I mean, if these people get fined enough or punished enough, is that what you got to do?
Well, Lizard Squad is out there trying to humiliate them into getting the message. That's what we're seeing them do with Sony. And hackers like that are trying to get their attention by proving that their systems just aren't adequate. So, yeah, it's a combination of the carrot and the stick. The carrot is you don't have to be one of those companies that gets breached, and the stick is if you are, it can be more than just damage to reputation. I mean, hackers have effectively learned how to infiltrate not only the company's software and hardware systems, but literally the firmware that runs on a printer. So if you're breached, you think if you replace all your servers that you're safe, and what we're hearing now is that you're not, because it can require a comprehensive reinstall of all your hardware and all your hardware systems. And I'm not saying that so that companies are deterred from looking at it. I'm saying if you understand the gravity of the threat that you face, maybe the board will be persuaded to take this more seriously. Okay, so we got to get the board involved to get on the right side of the if and when equation. There has to be an understanding of what's going on out there. But for someone who's got a business right now, small, large, whatever the case may be, and they're going, what am I supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? One thing they can do is they can adopt a response plan prior to a breach, so that if their servers are taken down, or if for whatever reason they need to hibernate some of their critical systems, if they have a response plan in place prior to the breach, they can immediately get their systems back on, either through a shadow server or parallel server or the like, and they don't have to endure the business disruption that might otherwise occur if they don't have a response plan in place prior to the breach. All right. Very interesting stuff. Thank you so much for joining.